challenged the guys to handle it with maturity and not be immature about the process, and they responded to that very well. We cleaned up some mistakes that we had in the first game. A lot of mistakes we had in the first game. We cleaned some of those up. And in terms of technique and eyes and those kind of things, of course, like any other film, it creates some new mistakes to clear up, but we'll get that done. Very effective on third down, very effective against the run. Got to play a lot of people. The new redshirt rule made it easier to decide who to play when we got control of the game, because not jeopardizing playing those guys because they get, 4 games throughout the year, so that was a whole lot easier and good for us. But it was a good win. Obviously, now we've moved on to our opponent this week, and very, very talented football team. It'll be a classic SEC West battle, and that's what the physicality of this game when you get in the SEC West is always at the max. So we're going to have to prepare very well this week.
What happened on that first big deep pass that Alabama State had?
Technique. Yeah, first 3 steps of the down.
Just the value of being able to play so many of those young guys and get them those reps. How big is that moving forward for those guys?
Well, it was huge. I mean, when you start talking about the guys that we're counting this year to help us down the stretch, Smoke Monday, Sherwood, Richard Juniper, Tut, those kind of guys. I mean, it was huge. Newkirk was another guy that got early snaps. I mean, there's a list of them that, when you're in this division, you need all able bodies, and so to get those guys snaps was good. We actually had a rotation plan where we played Monday with Denson and Sherwood with Daniel, and then switched it and then put them out there later on together.
Those young corners, obviously, they've been kind of thrown more into the mix now. What did you see out of them in a guy like Devin Baird as well?
Well, Devin and Roger both, they played really good technique for the most part. They won at the line of scrimmage at a pretty high percentage with their technique, which was good to see, because usually when you get out there the first time in front of a crowd, you forget everything that you practice. You'll get a giant eraser in your head. And so they applied good technique.
What have you noticed about LSU's new quarterback and what he provides them? There was so many questions about their offense, but they've managed to score points, obviously.
Yeah. Well, I think the thing that probably comes out the most, and he's very, very bright. I know his family, know his dad from the Nebraska connections, and he's a very bright young man. And you see a little bit more of checking plays and audible at the line of scrimmage, and those kind of things are the first thing that jumps out at you.
How much more difficult does that make it on the defense? Well,
anytime that you got a quarterback that can get you out of a bad play and get you in a good one, it ups the difficulty a little bit.
And their running back, a lot of people were questioning him, but he's after 130 yards.
Yeah, I don't question him. He was, when I was there, he was on the scout team, so I saw him every day. He's got great vision. He's got a lot of power. He's a patient back, and he's got a lot of patience, and then he's got vision to see it. He's a very, very good, talented young man.
Kevin, your defense so far is forcing turnovers at a higher rate than it was last year, particularly when it comes to interceptions. I know you preached that through the offseason, but how do they actually translate that to the field? And
sometimes it's just a knack. Certain guys have a knack. Obviously, you can think back through this league of certain guys that just had a knack for it. It seemed like they got a turnover every game. We've got a couple of those guys back there. Daniel Thomas is one of those guys. Tut, it hadn't happened for him yet, but in practice, he's kind of one of those guys that just got a knack for getting turnovers. And we didn't really stress it any harder than we did any other year, although we maybe worked it a couple of different ways. But I think that's the biggest thing.
Kevin, how valuable is it going to the games and with a huge atmosphere like this to have a good number of guys who have played in these games and played significant roles in these games before?
Well, I mean, there's a reason they pay the veterans in the National Football League a lot more than they pay the rookies, you know, because they've been there and done that. And experience has value. It has a great deal of value. It's no different for us as a defensive unit. You know, when we line the first 12 to 13, 14 out there, they played a lot of football, a lot of snaps.
Kevin?
KJ and the other young linebacker or something.
Yeah, Wooten and KJ and they have really done a good job of mastering the scheme, the checks, quarterback and the defense. They're very comfortable now and able to play faster because of it.
You mentioned Richard Jubinor. What has he shown you that makes him a guy that you think can contribute down the stretch?
He's long, he's athletic, and he can run fast. You know, the sack he got, it actually looked like the quarterback. Obviously, I wasn't in his head, but you watched enough film, it looked like he thought, okay, I can outrun this guy. And then all of a sudden, like, ooh, no, I can't. And he put the brakes on.
Yeah, and obviously, there's a lot of things that went into last year's game with them, especially with punt return, where it wasn't strictly on the defense and whatnot. But how much do you get back to with your guys and use that as a motivation?
No, it's none. No. Different team.
Devin Barrett, how long has he been at cornerback, and what were your impressions of him when he moved over there?
Well, he's been there 3 weeks, and we told him the first week, said, Devin, if you make this move now, we can't. We don't have magic dust, so it's not going to happen before we get to Washington. That'd be 2 weeks away. I don't think that if that works real good, then we'll go sprinkling on everybody. So, you know, we told him, hey, work to this point, and we'll get you ready in certain packages. And he's got a good skill set. He's a strong guy. He's a tough guy, very resilient, and we feel like he's got a skill set to help us.
Marlon was talking last night about how Don Tavis, he describes him as an old head. He doesn't have time for mistakes from his teammates. He wants everything perfect. And I saw it last night. Derek Brown gets a penalty. Don Tavis punches the air, just like, come on, we got to do this. How valuable is that for you?
Well, you know, Don Tavis is, if you've ever been around the guy, I mean, he kind of acts like he's 45 years old anyway, and has since the day I got here. It's no different. But now that he's matriculated to the top of the food chain, he's a little bit more vocal with it. For him, that's, you know, he's really good leader. Yeah, again, and I've said this before, Don Tavis is one of those guys where you watch the film and you say, well, you know, this guy should have done this guy needs to get his hands up, this guy's footwork's bad. And at the end of the tape, you hadn't said anything about Don Tavis. I mean, he just does his job.
You got your two early arrival safeties that both made big plays the first two games. How big a deal was it for Sherwood to come in early and Smoke to come in Sherwood?
It obviously helps. I mean, to get those 15 weeks practice, it's more of a confidence factor than anything else. I mean, you got meeting time in the summer now where you can legally meet with them for, you know, brief moments, but you can get them a head start with what you used to could do. But to have them in the spring, I mean, it's totally, you put them through the whole installation. So we go through the whole installation in spring, come back, do it again in the summer, come back in fall camp, do it again. So, you know, where some of those guys are getting 2 with one of those not being on the field at all, you know, they're getting 3 with 2 of those being on the field. So it helps a lot.
Kevin, Truesdale really active. You got Newkirk in there, Alec Jack. How important is it for the next group of those tackles to kind of step forward to give you some more depth in the middle?
Well, no different than any other position. Quarterback, wide receiver. I mean, at some point in time, you got to play the game. You know, you got to play the game. You can go whatever top golf and hit golf balls all you want, dream about hitting it on the green, but it's not real. I mean, you got to go play the game.
Kevin, going back to Joe Burrow for a minute, it's one thing, especially in your career, you've been around for so long, where you're matching wits with an offensive coordinator who's been around a long time, and you can go back and forth and whatnot. But when a quarterback at the collegiate level, even if grad transfers from around 4 or 5 years, has the experience to, as you said, check in and out or count hats and know where lanes are going to be at, what is the difference factor for you when you're going, when you know you have to play against that quarterback? One thing to scheme against a coordinator, when you're actually legitimately have to scheme against the opposing quarterback, because
Well, you got to disguise things.
Yeah.
You got to disguise things real well.
What is the difference factor from the player perspective, though, when you're looking at it and saying, is it just experience, or what is the deciding factor of it's more than experience that makes him capable of doing that.
Yeah, well, I hadn't watched that much video on him, I mean, 2 games, and obviously I haven't been around him. So, you know, it's a short evaluation. The biggest thing that jumped out was that. Now, obviously he throws a good ball, he's accurate, those kind of things, but, you know, it's kind of hard to get a full evaluation of it.
Is that when you rely on guys like Deshaun and Darryl and everything on the
Oh, yeah,
field to get everybody
Denson
right?
and Deshaun can, you know, you can, you know, we're not gonna get too big with it because there's other guys out there. But, you can do some things with those two that give you a coach on the field, if you will, that really understand football at a high level. And so you can at least take away what they do best.
Just in the
Kevin?
few years since you've been there to now, what's different about LSU? What's the same to you when you see them?
I don't really, I mean, you're talking about in terms of just watching them play?
Just watching them play.
Well, obviously I hadn't watched them on defense, but they're really, really good on defense, which traditionally
Yeah.
they always are. Offensively, they're very physical, run the ball first team. That's the thing that jumps out the most.
I want to ask you, who graded out the best for your defense against Alabama State?
Well, we had a lot of good grades on that. I mean, the production point leader was Derek Brown. He had the most production points. And obviously Daniel was up there pretty high with, when you get a pick six, you get a lot of production points. But
Any young guys get a lot of points?
Richard Juniper, obviously, I think he had quarterback pressure. I don't remember exactly. You have to look at the stats. But I know he had a sack, a big sack, quarterback pressure. I think he had a tackle for a loss.
Yeah, and you mentioned Daniel, it kind of, that safety spot's his natural spot. How have you seen him kind of evolve back into that role, being there, especially his first couple of games?
Yeah, I mean, you can see it on his play. I mean, from the first play of the Washington game till pick six the other night, he's very comfortable in what he's doing. He understands the scheme. He's a 3rd year in it. You know, he knows how to get us in and out of things, how to make sure that everybody else is lined up without confusing himself. He's just, you know, he's very confident right now, very comfortable in where he's at.
Very good, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Yeah, appreciate it.